Back on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. We are powered by our good friends at Tandem HR, your solution center. You can find them online, tandemhr.com, or give them a call, 630-928-0510, 630-928-0510. And I'm joined here in studio by the author of the Top 3 Dangerous Trends Threatening Your Business Performance. That is my good friend, Louis Arauz. He is joining us here to continue that discussion about how companies, how professionals can optimize their own personal performance, but also avoid those, frankly, very costly things that for a company, when you have multiple employees and they're not being productive, that's actually a monetary loss to business, isn't it, Louis?
Oh, yes, it is. Thanks for having me, Shalom. Yeah, that's actually known as presenteeism. Now, everybody knows what absenteeism is. That's when you're too sick and you stay home and can't come to work. And that does cost businesses a lot of money. But even worse is when you're not sick enough to go home, so you stay at work and you start messing up things, you start not focusing on your job tasks, you start getting mad at the people around you. That costs up to $300 billion a year to the entire country of companies. So there's a lot of problems there.
And it's fascinating. Obviously, we know this country is filled with folks that, let me just try to say this as nicely as I can, don't have a major focus on attention. Everybody's jumping from thing to thing, and it's the culture that we're in.
Correct.
But the reality is we're leading busy lifestyles, and folks aren't getting the sleep that they need. We're not doing the things that lend to a productive lifestyle. But you believe, Louis, that companies can make some changes to ensure that their employees and they themselves as a business owner can be more productive. Tell us, I don't want you to give away all the secrets of the book, but tell us a little bit about some of the things that business owners listening to this program can implement in the work week this week.
You're absolutely right. It has to come from a top-down mentality, because if too many of the programs that are out there, only the employees are the ones who are told to go into it, it has to come from the executives up top. Some of the things that they can do, some of the things that Albert was talking about before, is starting the day off right, making sure that you have that moment in the morning where you're focusing on what it is you're going to be doing for the rest of the day. When Albert was talking about, and he was talking a little bit about nutrition, and one of the things that I look for is the foods that actually are going to give you the most energy that you need to carry you throughout the day the longest. For me, those are things that are more like fats, and which will sustain you a lot longer than the average breakfast that somebody will have.
So, Louis, it sounds like you're recommending that companies really rethink even their office environment. And this isn't only applicable, I hope, to big companies that have a big budget to put in a fancy gym, but also to small businesses as well. But the snacks that they might be putting out,
absolutely,
putting out something that, as you said, lends itself to productivity.
Exactly, because for me, if we're talking about most companies, they're in meetings all day. And if you're in a meeting, we're talking about you're sitting there all day and you need your brain to work. One of the things that most of the research has been showing is how much sugar affects the brain and actually cause it to not work as well. Whereas your brain is made up of 70% fat. And if you are on a diet that doesn't allow for fats, guess what? Your brain's not working properly. So some of the things that I start looking at are some of those avocados, the egg yolks, the walnuts, and the almonds to allow the brain to actually work a little bit better. This is one area that we talk about.
You beat me to it. I was going to ask for some of those examples. Those are very helpful, hopefully, to many business owners. And Louis, I know this is very personal to you. Mm-hmm. I know that that this is a passion. Tell us briefly the story of why you are doing the work that you're doing. And of course, I want to make sure that our listeners can contact you if they want to discuss the subject and learn how they can create a better culture in their workplace. But Louis, why did you get this started?
So I got started about 7 years ago. My wife got sick. My background is in science and physics and computer technology, but my wife got sick, and all the doctors that we were visiting weren't really helping her. And doctors are fantastic for what they do, and they're great. The issue was that her things were so complicated, nobody was focusing on her. So I started using my research to start finding out those things. Started realizing that all the symptoms that she had weren't the actual issues. There were higher root causes that nobody was talking about. The lifestyle stuff that most people don't focus on. So going deeper and deeper into the science, I started realizing two things. All the chronic issues that she had were all based on inflammation and her inability to make energy. When I started really looking into it, I started noticing that the body actually functioned more like a business. And it got really interesting because it was all about stress. And all of the research that's out there that goes to health, performance, and recovery goes to two areas: soldiers for war and athletes for sports. But there's another group that really has as much chronic stress as those two groups, but nobody teaches them these things, and it's entrepreneurs and executives, because we know that our game for business goes on 24/7, 365, and there's always somebody coming after us. But athletes and even soldiers, they understand recovery and off seasons, but we don't get that in the business world. So I realized there's a need, because more and more business people, they waste their health trying to gain their wealth, only to end up wasting their wealth trying to buy back their health. And we've seen some amazing minds in businesses that we've lost, from Steve Jobs to so many other different business people that they're fantastic business people, but they've lost either their brain, their business, or their lives. And we having problems because of that.
And you ask a very, very pointed question on the very top of your website, which we'll be sure to send our listeners to. Are you killing it in business, or is business killing you?
Yeah.
And I think that's really, as I said, a very pointed question, and it leads to a lot of soul searching. But one thing that I think all of our listeners can relate to is this concept that executives are actually paid to think. Mm-hmm. And it's literally actually, it's detrimental if you are doing things either within your company or to yourself that's actually limiting your ability to think and come up with those creative solutions that you're working so hard to do to grow the company. Yep. You're not saying that everybody should quit their jobs and go off and just relax on a beach. We know that's not practical. You're saying that there's simple things that people can do, including starting their day off right, as Albert started talking about earlier, eating the right things. Give us another tip that our listeners can take back in their workplace this week. Absolutely,
because like you said, it's not about not ever having stress. You're always going to have stress. It's about understanding how to manage your stress, because the way I look at it is this: as far as stress goes, the oldest part of your brain is the one that manages what happens to you when you're under stress. It doesn't know the difference between you being chased by a tiger or if your boss is asking for that report that you're missing. So you have to learn how to retrain your brain to understand this new world that you're in. One of the things that I do, there's things called biofeedback. Heart rate variability is one device. It's a small little device that you can get less than $100, where you can plug it into your ear, you clip it on, and it measures your heart rate, the beats between your heart rate. And if you're under stress, the light turns one color. If you breathe properly and you actually focus, you get the light to change, and it shows you what you're doing right. One of the reasons I do this, because most people, they think about, for stress reduction, I need yoga. What happens there? Most people can't stop thinking, and it's not about that. But this device allows you to refocus and make sure that you're in that right mindset, so that way you can maintain focus and you can maintain productivity. We're chatting with Louis Arauz, the best-selling author of the top 3 dangerous trends threatening your business performance. And on your website, you actually have a store where people can actually find some of the items that can actually help them. They could actually get a copy of the book, yep, as well as you have a fantastic blog and a lot of great content and information that's available. I want to make sure our listeners can get a hold of you. You've got a lot to share, whether somebody's a business owner or they're a professional that just wants to become more productive. Louis, how can people get a hold of you? They can reach me at optimizedprimate.com, or they can give me a call, 773-295-1317. Fantastic. And once again, that website, optimizedprimate.com, and there's a lot of great content and information, and I appreciate you sort of giving some of those tips right here and Get Down to Business that folks can take back with them. But I implore you, if you're a business owner, do something to save yourself money. It might cost a few bucks in the short term, but it will actually save. You're suggesting potentially billions of dollars to in our economy a year, and you actually have a cute little calculator where people can actually calculate the loss of dollars when you're not doing these things. So, Louis Arauz, thank you again for joining us on Get Down to Business. Thanks, Shalom. Bye. Absolutely. So coming up after the break, we've got more tips, advice, and information for you here on Get Down to Business. You don't want to miss it. We've got more guests, a fantastic guest. I'll introduce him in just a few minutes after these
after the quick break and headlines. Once again, Get Down to Business is powered by our good friends at Tandem HR, your solution center. You can find them online, tandemhr.com, or give them a call, 630-928-0510, 630-928-0510. And in fact, you can get on my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you can download podcasts from Get Down to Business and get a sneak peek of who's going to be on next week on the show, all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. On my website, many networking tips, advice, and information. In the meantime, don't touch that dial. More for you after the break.
The mainstream media